Salvete omnes. This is Gaius Caesaris Commentarii de Bello Gallico Liber Primus, Chapter 7, where Caesar writes, Caesari cum id nuntiatum esset, eos per provinciam nostram iter facere conari, maturat ab urbe proficisci ad et quam maximis potest itineribus in Galliam ulteriorum contendit et ad Genovam pervenit. Provinciae toti quam maximum potest militum numerum imprat, erat omnino in Gallia ulteriore legio una, pontem, qui erat ad Genovam, iubet rescindi. Ubi de eus adventu, Helvetii certiores facti sunt, legatos ad eum mittunt nobilissimos civitatis, cuius legationis nama meus et verucloetius principem locum obtenebant, qui dicerent sibi esse in animo sine ullo maleficio iter per provinciam facere, propter rea quod aliud iter haberent nullum. Rogare, ut eius voluntate, id sibi facere liceat. Caesar, quod memoria tenebant, Lucium Cassium consulem ocissum exercitumque eos ab Helvetiis pulsum, et sub iugum missum concedendum non putabat. Neque homines inimico animo data facultate per provinciam itineris faciundi, temperaturos ab injuria et maleficio existimabat. Tamen, ut spatiam intercedere possit, dum milites quos imperavarat convenierent, legatis respondit diem se ad deliberandum subturum, si quid velent, ad idus apriles reveterentur. All right, so Caesari, Caesar, here he is in the dative, but he's the first word of the chapter because this is the first time that our man, the myth, the legend, the psychopath himself, steps onto the stage. Cum, we should translate cum first when we translate this into English because that is the conjunction when, since, although, and I think this is going to be when. A temporal cum. It should be translated first. So when Caesari to Caesar, the dative of Caesar, something's going to happen in regards to Caesar. We have id, that's going to be it. So accusative singular neuter of id. It's going to refer to pretty much everything that came beforehand. We can translate it as it, or we can translate it as sort of the report. The thing that was nuntiatum esset, that was nuntio, nuntiare, nuntiavi, nuntiatus, which means to announce. This is the pluperfect, third person singular, pluperfect passive subjunctive. So the reason why this is subjunctive is because of the conjunction cum. We are in a cum temporal clause, so when this happened. The only reason it's in the subjunctive is because it's being used with this conjunction right here, when. So when this happened, it's pluperfect because it's going to show an action which happened prior, first, before whatever action comes up in the sentence, whatever the main verb is. So this temporal clause happens first. Sometimes we can translate this cum when we translate as when, temporal, time, we can translate as after. So after id, it, the report, nuntiatum esset, had been reported, the report had been reported. After the report had been made, Caesari to Caesar, Yaman, eos per provinciam nostram iter facere conari. So eos, accusative plural, direct object, probably direct object, there's no preposition in front of it, of is ea id. So we have the accusative, then the per, preposition meaning through, takes the accusative. We have per provinciam, from provincia I, feminine, province. Nostram, from noster, nostra, nostrum. So this is going to be a feminine, going to agree with provinciam, singular, and accusative. Accusative because of the preposition per. So some accusative plural, masculine, them, through our province, iter facere conari, iter, the accusative singular neuter of iter itineris neuter. I know it's the accusative because it's going to be the accusative object of facere. These two together form an idiom, meaning to march. Literally to make a journey, where the journey is the direct object of the verb facio facere, feci factus. So to make a journey, to march, to journey. Conari. Conari is the present active infinitive. Well, it's the present deponent infinitive of the deponent verb. Conor, conari, conata sum, to try. So some people, the accusative case is the subject of an infinitive. So this is probably going to be an indirect statement describing what was reported to him, what was in the report. So when the news, had been made to Caesar that, and here's the news, a noun clause that was made to Caesar. It's like one great big old accusative direct object. So the subject will be in the accusative, and then the verb will be an infinitive. So conari, that they, the Helvetios, the Helvetians were conari. They were present active infinitive, so this verb is happening contemporaneous with whatever main verb is. That they were trying, making an attempt to journey, to make a journey, to find a route, per provinciam nostrum, through our province. Oh, the nerve of those guys. Maturat, he hastens. Then this verb then takes a complementary infinitive, proficiski, so he hastens ab, meaning from or away from, takes an ablative of separation. We have the ablative of orbis, feminine, from the city. He hastens from the city, proficiski, to, this is pro, facio, score. So the ska, score suffix on the end is an inceptive, also called an inchoative. It means to begin to, or a growing towards, a getting towards somewhere. So getting, growing towards, facio, making or doing in front. So beginning to set out. It means to set out. So we're setting out, proficiscor, getting ready to go out. He hastens to set out from the city, so he makes preparations to set out from the city. And of course, when the Romans say, the city, the urbs, of course they're talking about the city Roma, because Roma, they are Romani. So from the city, you could say from Rome, et quam maximis potest itineribus, quam plus the superlative, and maximus aum is the superlative. That's the super superlative. So as blank as possible, as greatest, by the greatest something possible. Potest, as able. Sometimes potest is added to this phrase to mean as greatest as possible, as greatest as is able. Itineribus, here is the noun that goes with this adjective. Considering that they are apart, it's not quam potest itineribus maximis. It's not itineribus maximis, where the adjective usually, a qualifying adjective, usually follows the noun. Here it's maximis potest itineribus, where the adjective maximis is out of place. Therefore, it is emphatic. You're emphasizing by the greatest routes, by the greatest, I would say, marches possible, or by forced marches, which means that they pretty much march through the night. So one thing that the commentaries always emphasize, and that Caesar is happy to note whenever it seems to happen, is that people remark on his haste, on his speed. He likes to add that when people arrive faster than he was expected. So people are surprised. Against all opinion, Caesar arrived against what everybody thought that he could. In Galliam, so by the greatest marches possible. In Galliam, in plus the accusative showing motion into Gaul, ulteriorem, not just inferiorem, but or not just citeriorem, nearer Gaul, but ulteriorem, further Gaul. He contended, he hastened. So here's our verb. He materat, after when it had been reported to him that, this is what was reported to him, that those guys are trying to make a journey through our province, he hastens to set out from the city, and he contended and materat, they have a similar meaning of to hasten, to make haste. Don't say hasten again, use it only once. And he makes ready to by forced marches, or he strives, or he struggles, or he goes by the greatest marches possible, by the I'll say the most forced marches possible. It's say by the quickest forced marches possible into further Gaul. So not nearer Gaul. It's not the Gaul that the Romans that Italy has on their side of the Alps. This is Gaul beyond the Alps. So Caesar goes beyond the Alps in, of course, record time because he's Caesar. So by the fastest forced marches possible, he makes haste, he strives, he struggles, he goes into further Gaul, and he ad genawam pervenet, and he pervenio. That's when you come to a place so much that you just get there. He arrived. It takes ad or the in plus the accusative case. He arrived at Genoa. Actually, it's probably present. He arrives at Geneva, at Genoa. Record time. Provinciae toti. This is going to be either the genitive, the dative in the singular, or the nominative plural. I'm going to cross off nominative plural because I think we're talking about the provincia, the singular province belonging to the Romans. And it's either going to be genitive or it's going to be dative. Toti. Toti is one of them header-clad adjectives where they have an ius in the genitive and they have an I in the dative. So this is dative. Totus whole, entire, total. So this is the dative. Provinciae toti. So I'm going to guess that provinciae is also dative. To or for the entire province. Or it could also be the object of some verb that takes the dative. I don't know, just guessing. Quam maximum potest militum numerum. So once again, we're emphasizing the maximum. Quam maximum. The noun that goes with the maximum is numerum. Potest militum. It's a number of soldiers. Quam maximum. The greatest number of soldiers possible. Imperat. Hey! Impero, imperare, imperavi, imperatus, to order or command, happens to be a verb that takes the dative. Provinciae toti, imperat. He orders the entire province. All right, so puts the whole province on high alert. So he orders the entire province, or he commands of the entire province, the greatest number of soldiers, potest, possible, is able. Then here's a parenthetical aside. Erat omnina in Gallia ulteriore legio una. There was altogether, omnino, the adverb form of omnis. There was altogether in Gallia, in plus the ablative of location, in ulteriore, ablative to go with Gallia, in further Gaul, legio, legionis feminine. Remember, legion is feminine. That explains the feminine ending on una. It's not legio unus. That's weird. Legio una. One legion. There was altogether in further Gaul. One legion. Oh, that's not going to be enough to deal with this absolutely dangerous, out of control, rampaging, ravaging migrant caravan of Helvetians. we're going to need quam maximum numerum militum potest, the greatest number of soldiers possible. So he orders the entire province for this thing. And he pontem qui erat ad genawam iubet rescindi, and the accusative singular masculine pons pontus bridge, direct object of this verb, qui erat, actually direct object, or actually the subject accusative of this verb, iubet, qui. This kicks us into a relative clause. So the antecedent of qui is pontem, qui quae quod, who or which. Bridges are things in English, so which. Erat, which was, ad genawam. Ad, the bridge does not really move towards Geneva. That would be motion towards. This, it sort of stretches or goes towards, or even it faces Geneva. So the bridge which stretches, which goes towards Geneva, faces Geneva, which was facing Geneva. Iubet rescindi. The subject is Caesar. Once again, he's the subject of imperat. So iubet. So he imperat, orders the whole province for this thing, the greatest number of soldiers possible, for there was entirely in further Gaul only one legion. And the bridge, he iubet orders, bids rescindi. Rescindi, this is the objective infinitive. So iubeo does not take an indirect command. It takes a subject accusative and an objective infinitive. He orders the subject accusative to do the objective infinitive. He orders the bridge to be cut down, to be rescinded. Rescind that bridge like an invitation away. So to be cut down. And the bridge that was facing Geneva, he orders it to be cut down. Ubi, that's a U, ubi de eos adventu helveti. So when, ubi, when, de plus the ablatives, that would be adventu, eos, the genitive, nestled snugly in between, when concerning his arrival. Whose arrival? Eos is a pronoun. It stands in for Caesaris, for Caesar's arrival. When concerning Caesar's arrival, when concerning his arrival, the Helvetii, the nominative plural Helvetians, the Helvetians, certiores facti sunt, the Latin idiom that means literally to be made, facio facere feci factus, this is perfect third plural passive, indicative, they were made, certiores, more certain. That means that they were informed. This is the passive form. So they were made this is a nominative, plural masculine. It's a predicate nominative because this acts like a linking verb. The nominative subject Helvetians become this thing. Nominative, plural, predicate, nominative. So when the Helvetians were made more certain, they were informed about his arrival. This can also take an indirect statement when they were informed that something happened. But here it's just taking de plus the ablative. They were informed, they were made more certain about his arrival. De legatos ad eum mittunt, nobilissimos civitatis. De legatos ad eum mittunt. They send legates to him. We will see this phrase forever and a day. They send, the Helvetians, send legates to him, pronoun, eum, sending in for an accusative motion towards Caesarem. They send the accusative direct object, accusative motion towards to him. Nobilissimos, this is an accusative plural masculine, and it's an adjective, and it's modifying the legatos. The most noble civitatis of their state, genitive, of civitatis feminine, meaning state. Citizenry, not citizen, but citizenry. Citizen is civis, masculine or feminine. This is civitatis feminine. Cuius, relative pronoun, so it's kicked us into a relative clause. This is genitive. It's one of them heteroclats, like toti. It's got an I-U-S for its genitive. So it's not cuius, but cuius. So genitive, singular, it could be masculine, it could be feminine, or it could be neuter, but its antecedent, civitatis, is feminine, so this is feminine. And because its antecedent is singular, it must be singular. It doesn't have to be the same case as its antecedent. but it is. In this case, genitive. This is also genitive. Legationis. This is genitive. Genitive of legatio, legationis, feminine, meaning an embassage. So a legatus is the ambassador. This is what the ambassador does. He goes on a diplomatic mission. He embassages. He goes on an embassage. Of which embassage? Which one? This one, the one that the legates came to Caesar, the most noble of their state. Of this, English would prefer the demonstrative this, so would prefer cuius. Latin prefers the relative cuius because it's, this one. Which one? The one that's right here. Of which embassage? On which diplomatic mission? Nameos. This is a nominative singular masculine proper noun. It's a name. Et Verocloetius. Once again, another one. It's a compound subject here of Nameos and Verocloetius. They obtenebant. Here's the verb. Principem. From princeps, principes. It's a singular masculine. It's adjectively working with locum. So the chief place, the chief position, the position of head person, princeps. Obtenebant. They obtained, they were holding. It's not really obtain, though you can see the English word obtain here. It's teneo with ob. So they hold against opposition, which really means they govern. They have control of. So Nemeus, of which embassage Nemeus and Verocloetius were holding the chief place. Nemeus and Verocloetius were holding the chief place of this embassage. Which one? The ones that they send to Caesar, the most noble of their state. Oh. What was their job? What were these guys supposed to do when they showed up to ad eum, to Caesar, to ad Caesarem? Qui dicerent. So qui, this is a relative pronoun, agreeing with Nemeus and Verocloetius in number and in gender. So they're both masculine, they're both plural. They don't agree in case, but here they do. So qui is also nominative because it's the subject of this verb dicerent. And this is, I hope you recognize it, as a third plural imperfect subjunctive. There's the infinitive dicere, there's the personal ending unt, dicerem. Who were to say. This is a relative purpose clause. This is one of them adjectival telic clauses. So it's a adjectival clause because it's using an adjectival relative clause to show purpose. It's showing the purpose of the antecedent. Who's the antecedent of qui? Well, that would be Nameus and Verocloetius. And what's their job? What's their purpose? What are they supposed to do? They were to tell. They're supposed to tell, to dicerem, to tell, to say. And then this verb, dico, is the king of indirect statement, kicks us into an indirect statement. Sibi esse in animo sine ulla maleficio, iter per provinciam facere. So sibi, I know this is an indirect statement because when I read ahead, there is not a single nominative in sight. I mean, we've got a dative and all of a sudden an infinitive. In animo sine ulla maleficio iter per provinciam facere. I mean, iter could be the nominative, but it's working here with the verb facere, so it's the object of this verb. It's not a nominative, not anyone here. And also, this verb is the king of indirect statement. So I'm going to assume that this whole thing is a noun clause. Acts like one huge accusative direct object of this verb dico. This is what they were to say, this whole thing. They were to say, in English we say that, sibi esse in animo, that esse, there was, in animo, in the mind, in the heart, in the intention, in plus the ablative location. Esse here, it's going to correspond to an est if we were in what's called oratio recta, direct speech. If these guys were being quoted using the verb inquit, this would be est, that there was est in animo, there is in mind. But Caesar's not quoting them, he's giving the gist, the indirect statement, the oratio obliqua of what they were saying. There was in, and we're going to say their mind, reflexive. It's dative. Circle the reflexive and draw an arrow to the subject, dicerent, who's also Nemeos and Verakloitius. So it's referring to them, it's their mind. This is a dative of possession. It's possessing animo. Literally, there was in the mind to them, which is a weird roundabout way of saying they had in mind. There was in their mind, in their heart, in their intention to do something, to sine ullo maleficio, to sine meaning without, takes the ablative, without ullo, ullus any maleficio, malefici neuter, wrong, male facio, wrongdoing, without any wrongdoing. These were both ablative because of the preposition sine. That they had in mind, without any wrongdoing, to iter facere per provinciam, to make a journey, to march, to journey through the province. And he means the provinciam Romanam, the Roman province, over which Caesar is governor. This is what they were to say. And it continues, propter rea quod, especially because aliud iter haberent nullum. And the nullum is emphatic because it's displaced from its aliud. So aliud, aliosa ud, meaning an other iter. It's neuter because iter is neuter, and it's both of them are the accusative singular direct object of haberent. Notice that haberent is it a subjunctive? Why is it subjunctive? It's third person plural, imperfect, subjunctive, active, indicative, because this is kicking us off into a subordinate clause, a causal clause, because, especially because, and subordinate clauses, so a subordinate clause inside of an indirect statement, that the verb in that will take the subjunctive. It's just indicating to you that you are still inside the indirect statement. So this is still the gist of what Nemeus and Verakloitius were saying to Caesar, that they had in their mind to journey through the province without any wrongdoing, without any malice, especially because, and this is going to explain why they would do this, because they had aliud iter, another way, nullum, none, nullus it's the opposite of ullus. This is any, this is not any, none. And it's neuter to agree with iter. And another route they had, shake of the head, none. So this is going to ensure their good behavior. They have no other route. They have no other way through. So they definitely are going to cross without any wrongdoing. Please may we cross? Rogare. And they were to say that they were asking. So this is infinitive verb. It's continuing the indirect statement. It just doesn't rename the say. They were asking. They were to say that they were asking, meaning the Helvetians were asking, ut, so that this kicks us into not an indirect question, which you usually see after rogo, but an indirect command. They're asking, and this is what they're asking sort of a command. Like, I ask that you do your homework. It's not a question that you do your homework. I'm asking that you do this. I'm commanding you. So they were asking, like a command, like a persuasion, so that eius voluntate, eius, the genitive, it's one of them heteroclades, pronoun of is ea id, referring to Caesaris, pronouns stand in for nouns, of his voluntate, voluntas, voluntatis feminine, will, desire. It's his what you volunteer. It's what Caesar wants. So by his will, by his leave, we could even say by his permission. Id, it, accusative singular neuter or nominative of is ea id. I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's going to be the object. Sibi, dative of reflexive. So you should be able to draw an arrow back to the subject. And the subject that we're talking about in this whole thing, that's Nemeus and Verakloitius. So they're asking that it be permitted for them to do this. So liceat. From licet, licere, licuit. It is licet, licit. It is license. You have license to do this. If you put an in front of it, the N becomes another L, so it becomes illicit, not licit. You have no license to do that. Licet means it is permitted, it is allowed, and it's impersonal. So the subject is always a third person singular T. Licet. That's why it looks like that in the dictionary. Licet, licere, licuit. So it is permitted. It licuit. It was permitted. So here's the subjunctive. It may be permitted for a dative. It takes the dative for the dative them, Nemeus and Wercloetius, to do an infinitive, a complementary infinitive. So licet takes a dative and a complementary infinitive. It is permitted for us. May it be permitted for us to facere, to do this thing, meaning to make the journey through the province, eos voluntate, by means of his will, by his leave. That's what they're asking. So this is an ut plus the subjunctive, indirect command. What a sentence. Ubi to liceat. So, when the Helvetians were informed of his, Caesar's, arrival, they send ambassadors to him, the most noble of their state. Nemeus and Wercloetius they held the chief position of this embassage. I would put a semicolon here. And these were to say that they had in mind to pass through the province without any malice, especially because they had no other route. And they ask that it may be permitted for them to do this thing with his permission. Caesar. Now, what does Caesar say? Quod. Now, this is quod causal. So this is because, kicking us into a causal clause. And it usually takes the indicative. If it takes the subjunctive, then the author is not vouchsafing for what the reasoning is, if the reasoning is right. If the author puts quod plus the indicative, then the author is saying it's because of this, and I know that for a fact. If the author puts quod plus the subjunctive, he's saying, now on the grounds that this is what they were thinking, I heard this, I'm not quite sure. So we have quod plus the indicative, because he tenebat, teneo plus memoria, the Sheba Macron over it, so memoria tenere, to hold by means of memory. So this is an ablative of means. Because he was holding by means of memory, you can just say he remembered, or he held in mind, or he had in mind. Because he remembered that, this is going to kick us into quite a lovely indirect statement. Oratio obliqua, indirect speech, indirect thought. So he remembered that. So remember, indirect statement, the subject will be in the accusative case, the verb will be an infinitive. The whole thing will act like one big, huge accusative indirect object. That's why it's a noun clause. So, Lucium Cassium consulem ocissum exercitumque eos ab helvetis pulsum et sub jugum missum. And then we'll stop there. Okay, so Lucium Cassium consulem ocissum, that looks to be a subject. It is in the accusative case. Lucium, L is the abbreviation for Lucius, so Lucium Cassium, Lucius Cassius. He was a consulem, he was a consul. This isn't a positive, so it's a positive noun giving us his rank, his office. This is Lucius Cassius Longinus. Lucius Cassius Longinus. He was consul in 107 BC with his colleague, the famous Gaius Marius. During his consulship, he marched out with an army to Gaul, and he was slain in battle by a pagus, that is a district, and we'll be hearing more about these guys. A pagus or district of the Helvetians called the Tigurinus, or the Tigrine. The grandfather of Caesar's father-in-law was a legate who was killed in this battle. So that's why Caesar's going to talk about it. So Lucius Cassius, the consul, so he was one of the two supreme executive magistrates of the Roman Republic. Ocissum, occido, occidere, occidi, occissus. He was ocissum. There's an implied essay here. So there's an implied essay on all of these. That he was occido, cut down. So he was slain, he was felled. So Caesar, because he was remembering, he remembered that Lucius Cassius the consul was felled. He was slain, cut down. Exercitumque. The que, translate that before the word to which it is attached. It's an enclitic and his army. So not just the consul, but also exercitum, and his army. Eos, there's the genitive of his army. Ab Helvetis, ab, from or by, takes the ablative to be either separation or personal agent with a passive voice verb. Here it's personal agent with a passive voice verb. By the Helvetians. They're the agent. They're the doers of this verb. The person who was pulsum, or the thing that was pulsum, was the exercitum. Grammatically, it was this exercitum. It was also Lucium Cassium, but grammatically it's singular. It agrees with the exercitum. And his army, pulsum, beaten, routed. Actually, it probably only agrees with the exercitum. Lucius Cassius, he was obcisum. He was cut down. Exercitum was pulsum, and it was misum subjugum. Yes. So his army was pulsum, agrees with the exercitum, agent by the Helvetians, routed by the Helvetians, and misum, and sent subjugum, under the yoke. So that means that they set up a yoke, like the way that you yoke beasts of burden, and then you force the losing enemy to the losing army to go underneath the yoke, to pass underneath it. It's like a very humiliating good game shake of the hands after the end of a Little League game. Only the purpose is to humiliate the opposing forces. So this is the battle where Lucius Cassius lost his life. He was killed, and his army was beaten by the Helvetians, by the Tigorine canton, by the Tigorine district of Helvetia. And the army was misum, sent, subjugum, under the yoke. And all of these have essays. They're perfect passive participles. So in this indirect statement, this oratio obliqua, the perfect passive participle shows an action that happened prior, because it's perfect, prior to the main verb. Caesar remembered this thing. It's already happened. He remembered that this guy had already been killed, cut down. The army had already been beaten, and had already been misum, sent under the yoke. And because of that stuff, he concedendum non putabat. He concedendum. All right, you've got a gnarly ND thingy here from concedo, concedere, concessi, concessus. It's concede endum, concedendum. So it means to, you can see concede, to concede, or to cedo, to yield, to give way, to allow. And it's got that nd, endus aum. So it's not, it could be a gerund, it could be a gerundive, or a passive periphrastic. And it's going to be a passive periphrastic with the implied essay. And of course, the essay, the form of the verb to be, is what makes a passive periphrastic all passive periphrasticy. So a passive periphrastic like Carthago delenda est, concedendum, we want an essay here, concedendum esse. This is a very small indirect statement with non putabat. This is actually the main sentence. Caesar non putabat. Caesar non putabat. He was not thinking. He was not thinking that puto, putare, putavi, putatus often takes an indirect statement. Concedendum. That there's an implied say, the subject being, or I'm sorry, that it meaning this thing, or that the thing that they're asking of Caesar, that it, that explains the ending, that it must be passive periphrastic, must be yielded. If Caesar showed up in this part, it's implied and it's sibi. So an implied sibi, that it must be yielded by him, Caesar. He's giving his reasons why he will not yield or allow this thing. Caesar was not thinking that it must be allowed. Why? Well, he tells us, quote, it was actually before he made his decision. He gave his reason. Because he remembered that Lucius Cassius, a Roman consul, had been cut down, and his army had been beaten by the Helvetians and sent under the yoke. And for this reason, Caesar was not thinking that he must allow it, and it must be allowed. You can translate either way. Neque, and not. Furthermore, negation. You don't see et non, you see neque or neck instead. You often see another one. If you see another one, it becomes neither nor. Homines, inimico animo, that homines, homo homines, masculine, meaning man, person, human being, mankind, homo sapiens. Nominative plural, masculine, that a people, inimico animo, inimicus unfriendly, hostile, animus e masculine, spirit, mind, with a hostile spirit, that people with a hostile spirit, that people are going to be doing something. So this is our, this is either going to be the nominative or going to be the accusative. If it's nominative, it's the subject. If it's accusative, it's going to be the direct object, or maybe even the accusative subject of an indirect statement. And we'll get to the verb somewhere. But there are men, there are people. There are people, and they are with, this is an ablative of description, they are with a hostile spirit. Data, facultate. Data, from do dare dedi datos, in the ablative singular feminine. It's a perfect passive participle coming from the fourth principal part datos. That's how we get data. And it agrees with facultate, from facultas, facultatis feminine, meaning ability. You can see facus in there, so facio. It means easy, easiness, or ability, chance, opportunity, easiness. So with the opportunity, data, these are in the ablative, suspiciously in the ablative, acting absolutely by themselves with no grammatical bearing on the rest of the sentence. Why we call that an absolute. And in the ablative, we call that an ablative absolute. With the noun, facultate, participle. With the noun having been given. With the ability or chance having been given. The ability of chance of what? The ability, the chance, faciundi. Read that U as an E. Faciendi. That's what you're used to. I left it faciundi because I thought it was kind of cool. So faciundi. Here we have the genitive, singular neuter. This is going to be either the gerund or the gerundive. It's going to be the gerundive, the verbal adjective, because it agrees with the noun itineris. Iter itineris, neuter, journey, or route. So with the facultas, the opportunity of making a journey, of marching. Remember, this is an idiom that goes together to mean to march or to journey, to travel. So with the opportunity of marching through the province, data, having been given, all of this is just part of this ablative absolute, data facultate, with the opportunity of, genitive, gerundive, marching, per provinciam, through the province, then the participle, having been given. So basically saying, if Caesar gives the opportunity of marching through the province to the Helvetians, to a people inimico animo, with a hostile spirit, with a hostile or an enemy-like heart, what will happen? Temperaturos ab injuria et maleficio existimabat. Here's our main verb. Like putabat, Caesar non putabat. He was not thinking that it must be allowed. Caesar was thinking, he estimated, he guessed, that homines, I'm sorry, he was not thinking. This neque negates it. And he was not thinking, he did not guess, he did not reckon, that he did not calculate that a people of hostile intention, of hostile heart, with the opportunity of marching through the province, having been given to them, you could say, that they would temperaturos, that these people with the hostile spirit, the hostile heart, would temperaturos, refrain, os, accusative, plural, masculine, os, goes with the accusative, so this is accusative, subject of this infinitive verb in this indirect statement. Os, accusative, plural, refrain, they will refrain. Or he was not thinking that they would refrain, is probably the best way to say it in English. From, aab, from the ablative separation, from injury, change that consonantal I to a J, from injury and wrongdoing, from harm and malice. So Caesar was not thinking that a people who are descriptive, marked by having hostile intentions, would refrain from harm and malice, wrongdoing, injury and wrongdoing, if the opportunity of making a journey through the province were given to them. Tamen, nevertheless. Usually Tamen is post positive, but here it is not. Nevertheless, yet still. Ut spatium intercedere. If we have an ut, we probably have a subjunctive coming up. Not always, but often we will have a subjunctive coming up. Ut spatium. Spatium, spati, neuter, space, span. Usually of time, can also be of space. Intercedere, it's inter and cedo, to put between, to intercede, to interrupt. Posset, posset, from possum, posse, potui. There's our subjunctive, third person singular, imperfect subjunctive, to be able to. So, nevertheless, so that a spatium, a posset, a space, a span of time, posset, might be able to intercedere, to intercede, to interrupt. Basically, he's buying himself some time. So that's this is going to be a purpose clause. This is going to explain his next action. Why would he do his next action? So that a space of time might intercede, so that he could buy some time. Ut plus the subjunctive. It's going to be, it's posset, imperfect subjunctive, because we are in secondary sequence. Main verb is going to be past tense. Dum. Dum plus the subjunctive means until such a time as. We can just in English say until, but it takes the subjunctive to mean until such a time as, and it's a specific time. Whenever that time might be, which is why it's subjunctive. So expect the subjunctive to come up. Dum milites, nominative or accusative, plural masculine of miles militis, meaning soldier. Quos imperavorat, so quos, relative pronoun of qui, quae, quod, accusative, plural masculine, its antecedent is milites. So it must agree with its antecedent in gender and number. They're both plural and they're both masculine, not necessarily in case. So milites could be nominative or accusative. Quos must be accusative. So quos, accusative, is going to be the direct object of the verb imperavorat, and that's the relative clause, quos imperavorat. With whom, quos whom, the guys whom, the soldiers whom, imperavorat, he had commanded. From impero, imperare, imperavi, imperatus, to command. Third person singular, pluperfect active indicative. Until such a time as the soldiers whom he had commanded convenierent. All right, so that explains milites. Milites is the subject, nominative subject. Subject of convenierent, could gather. Convenierent, third person plural of convenio, convenire, conveni, conventus, to cum venio, come together, to gather. It's third plural imperfect active subjunctive, and it's the subjunctive with dum. So dum, until the milites, the soldiers convenierent, could gather. Which ones? Oh, the quos, the ones whom imperavorat, he had commanded. Legatis responded. Here's our indicative main verb. He responded, he replied. So he replied to the legatis, and then this is what he replied, what he said to them, what's following. Now, why did he respond it to the legatis in the following way? Ut, back up here, ut, so that a space of time could intercede. He could buy some time until the soldiers whom he had commanded could gather. So you can already guess that whatever he's about to say, to respond it, to make answer to these legates, it's probably not going to be in good faith, because he's only doing so, and he tells us up front, he does not hide this purpose clause after the main verb. He tells us up front that in order to buy some time until the soldiers whom he's already ordered, imperavorat, it's blue perfect, he's already commanded these guys, they are already on order throughout the whole province, until such a time as Dum, these guys could gather. He makes answer, responded, he replies to the legates that a diem, that they should diem, a day, the accusative singular masculine, dies, diei masculine. It is one of the few, if only, masculines in the fifth declension. Compounds of dies are also, like meridies, are also masculine. The word can also be feminine if we're referring to a specific day. Say, the reflexive, say, looks accusative-y. All right, so circle it, and we're going to find its subject. It could be responded, because we draw an arrow back to the subject. So he replied to the legates that he, Caesar, the day could do something to say to him, Caesar, Caesarem, or he could be doing something to the day. Let's figure it out. Odd, ad, odd takes the accusative motion towards deliberandum. Delibero, deliberare, deliberari, deliberatus, to deliberate, to think about it. Take some time, think it over, mull it over, ponder, a little pensive, ruminate on it in my head. Deliberandum, sumpturum. So deliberandum doesn't have a noun that it agrees with. It just means to deliberate, in order to deliberate, and it's a gerund. Odd plus the accusative gerund. So that's the verbal noun. There's no noun that it goes with. Otherwise, it would be a gerundive, a verbal adjective. So ad deliberandum, in order to deliberate, for deliberating. That's what the diem is for. The diem is ad deliberandum, for deliberating, of course. Say, and then sumpturum is going to be your verb. It's going to be sumpturum esse, the implied esse. That's a future active infinitive. So sumpturum. He, say, there's your accusative subject. Caesarem, Caesar would sumpturum. He replied to the legates that he, Caesar, would sumpturum, would take a diem, would take a day, would take some time, take a day or two, ad deliberandum, to think about it, to think it over. In the meantime, we know, Caesar's told us in his commentaries up front, that ut spatium intercedere posset, that he's already made up his mind that he needs the soldiers. So, I wonder what his answer is going to be. Si quid velent ad idus apreles reverterentur. So, si quid velent. Remember, after si, nisi, num, and ne, all the alis drop away. So it should read si aliquid velent, and for aliquid we have anything. But after si, nisi, num, and ne, here we have si, those alis, like on aliquid, drop away, and we just get quid. Si quid. It's just a thing that Latin do. So si quid velent, where velent is the third plural imperfect active indicative subjunctive of volo, velle, volui. So if they should want anything, so it's an imperfect subjunctive and an implied indirect command. So there's an implied he ordered or he bid them, that si quid velent, if they should want anything, you guys should want anything, your people should call my people, and my people probably won't call you back because we're busy getting the army together. I mean, we're busy thinking about what answer to give to you in regards to you coming through the province. The soldiers are still getting together, right? Yes, sir. So if they should want anything, quid velent, want anything, aliquid, quid, anything, they should reverterentur, should revertor, this is deponent verb, looks passive, translates active. They should return, imperfect subjunctive. They should return ad, around, takes the accusative, ad idus aperes, around the April Ides, around the Ides of April. which is going to, of course, be April 13th. All right, so that whole thing in the end says, nevertheless, so that he might buy some time while the soldiers, which he had commanded, gather, he made answer to the legates, to the ambassadors, that he would take a day to think about it. If they should want anything, they should return around April 13th, around the Ides of April. Optime, well done. All right, we're ready to move on to the next chapter. Valete omnes.